Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the E-commerce Lab by Ecomcy, the place of everything related to Amazon FBA and e-commerce. My name is Vincenzo Toscano, founder and CEO of Ecomcy, and today we come back with another session of questions and answers. I know I've been lost for a couple of weeks, and I'm very sorry about that. I've been traveling around, going to conferences, being crazy with Q4, getting ready for Black Friday this week. I mean, this week has been a nightmare. But we are surviving. That's what matters. We are keeping up with consistency and we're trying forward. Okay. So thank you very much for everybody that is being sending me messages. What happened, Vincenzo, with the sessions? Are you coming back? Yes, I'm coming back. I just had a very busy season, but as I promised, I'm gonna be back with these sessions as always to provide as much value as possible and to answer all your questions and talk about all the subjects related to Amazon and e-commerce in general. Talk about the latest news, strategies, etc. Right? So thank you as well for everybody that's been sending the questions. We have an archive of I don't know hundreds of questions now because of the weeks I wasn't live. So I promise, even if I'm not able to answer all of them in live, I'm putting my team to answer by email those questions. So thank you very much for sending those. So before we jump into today's session, I first want to do basically talk about some of the news I saw last week, just talk about some of the things I have seen in the space, give you an overview of what happened to me in the last couple of weeks when I was traveling abroad, what are the trends I have seen, and then we're going to jump into the questions. So I'm going to try to put as much juice as possible into these 30 minutes to provide as much value for all of you guys. So let's start first with the news. When it comes to the news, something very interesting happened last week. They announced something called the Account Health Assurance Program. So basically, this is a new program that Amazon is releasing, which basically is changing from the model that they suspend you and then they ask questions later to now asking you questions first before actually suspending your account. The caveat with this new method, of course, is that you need to keep a certain amount of performance within the Amazon account, right? So right now they are designing something which basically they call the AHR score. You need to have at least 250 and higher in the last 6 months. And that's what they take in consideration to then decide, okay, we're actually not going to suspend you. We're going to work by your side and make sure that as long as you prove you're working with us, providing any missing information, documentation, invoices, you name it, you're not going to get suspended. Now, that sounds pretty nice, very exciting, but we need to see how it works. I mean, it's just been 1 week already. We can see across multiple accounts that we manage that they're receiving the notification, they're automatically enrolled, but we need to see how this plays out. I just wanted to point that out because now, I mean, as long as you keep a very good account health history, you're not gonna have that nightmare that we always talk about in basically in the Amazon space, which you wake up one day and your business is gone, right? So at least now I mean, they tell you your business is gonna go if you don't take action, but at least you have some time to react and not lose all that revenue overnight. So I think this most likely came due to the pressure they received from the press, big Amazon sellers, governments, and all of that, because there were big cases that people got suspended for no reason, millions of dollars lost because of that. So I think this is a good direction they're taking to be more seller side, right, and just customer side. Okay, so this is one of the biggest news I saw in the space. Other than that news I have seen in the space, nothing major. I mean, of course, when it comes to this week, Black Friday and Cyber Monday, you need to make sure that you are prepared for that. I'm going to actually give you some of the tips that you should be considering. Hopefully you're already implementing this, because right now it's a little bit too late, I would say, to implement some of this, but at least it's important that you have them in consideration at least for next season. So number one thing is you want to make sure that you have your listing as optimized as possible and you customize it for holiday season, right? So we have a couple of clients that the process can actually also be used for giftable seasons, and you want to make sure that those keywords and phrases are within the listing themselves, and you want to create new PPC campaigns that target just those long tail keywords that are specific to a specific seasonality. In this case, can be Christmas, right? Actually, I was having a webinar today with DataHawk, amazing tool, by the way, about how you can research these tools. And one of the things I pointed out that we're using a lot is brand analytics. Make sure you use brand analytics to then basically analyze what happened last Christmas or last November to December. You can go back, put, let's say, for example, just the keyword Christmas, and brand analytics is going to give you all the long tail keywords that relate to Christmas that have generated a certain amount of volume and what are the top selling products on those keywords. So that's a very good way to find long tail keywords that will relate to a specific seasonality, in this case Christmas, and attach it to your listing and PPC campaigns. Also, make sure you adjust your PPC campaigns, guys. Make sure that you adjust your bids. You want to make sure that your bids are increased at least in your top performing keywords, because most likely if you don't increase them, you're not gonna get any impressions or control those placements. What I usually advise during this season is to stop any experimental type of campaign, phrase, broad, automatic. You want to stay just with exact match in your top performing keywords. And if you want to experiment and you have data that those keywords are very good for you, you can even try bid up and down, right? So you don't have the headache of always every single day realizing your bid is not high enough to compete, right? Other thing you might want to do, you may want to customize your images, right? You may want to customize your images, and this would be specifically for the seasonalities. For example, for some of the brands, we are making a complete Christmas theme for some of them, at least for the second, third image, and so on. The first image, you can't really do that. And the same for the brand store. So we advise you to do that. And the final thing, guys, is make sure you have a good strategy when it comes to inventory. I mean, it's all rainbows talking about, yeah, making as many sales as possible, but then if you cannot keep up with the demand, that is gonna bring you as effect of the snowball effect of those sales positioning you higher and getting more sales organically. You're gonna go out of stock most likely towards the end of December. January, you're gonna put the order. If you don't put it fast enough in January, you have the Chinese New Year, then the order doesn't get produced up to towards the end of February, and you are in trouble. All the work you did is gonna get lost. So these are some of the tips. Also, make sure you have at least some kind of FBA offering, if FBM offering the listing, because sometimes Amazon, we know in Q4 gets a bit chaotic in some of the logistics of things. So if you see, for example, a specific of your ASINs of some of the warehouses that keep the biggest stock for some reasons having issues to fulfill, you want to want to have the FBM offering so you can keep fulfilling those orders and avoid even going out of stock if you finish your stock in Amazon. Okay. Awesome. So let's take that out of the way. Let's now talk about my experiences the last 2 weeks when I was in Mexico conference and what I saw there. So I wanted to point this very quickly as well, because what I saw in Mexico was amazing. I mean, the drive from people in Mexico, businesses, entrepreneurs wanting to jump in Amazon. Some of them already are doing a killing in Amazon Mexico. They want to jump overseas. So there was so much potential there, but at the same time, I did basically reverse engineer the market. And I saw there's also so much potential for us to go into Mexico, Amazon Mexico. I mean, the level of competition is very low right now. The level of strategies were implemented outside of Amazon Mexico is nowhere to be compared when it comes to Amazon Mexico themselves. I mean, if you go to Amazon Mexico, most of them are even doing the bare minimum when it comes to PPC. Some of them are not even doing PPC, right? And for us that we're coming with so many high level strategy that you really need to do in Amazon USA and Europe to survive, this is a huge advantage for you. So make sure that you give it a try to Amazon Mexico. Amazon Colombia is just around the corner. Amazon Chile, even Amazon Brazil, if you can jump into that. I know there are some tricks there around the logistics of things and also everything that has to do with the paperwork. But guys, everything that is difficult, remember, it's an opportunity. It's a filter. That means less people is going to jump into those markets, and I can bet those markets are just going to keep growing and growing and growing. I mean, Mercado Libre is already killing it in Latin America. Amazon is definitely seeing the potential, and as Amazon start investing more resources into those markets, it's a matter of time before all those barriers are lifted. And by the time the barrier are lifted, everybody's going to jump, and it's going to be too late. So please give it a look, and you won't regret it. Trust me. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Awesome. Let's start into some of the questions so I can answer as many as possible. And remember, if anybody's jumping live right now, remember this is a live session. So anything that you comment here, I can see it in my comments. Sometimes from some of the platforms we have seen that they don't automatically fit into my dashboard, but nevertheless we make sure those keywords are recorded and they are broadcasted into the next session. Okay, so let's get started with the first question of the day, and I'm gonna start loading them in the screen right here, and let's see which one is the one we have here. And awesome. First question: what is the typical tacos I should aim for? So the typical tacos you should aim for, there isn't really a typical tacos that everybody's gonna fit in there, because it depends strictly on your profit margins. Your profit margins are gonna dictate what are the KPIs you can aim for. However, I would say most people is gonna aim always between 7% and 15%. That is a bracket you wanna keep your tacos. The lower the better. That means the more profitability to you. But I would say yes, definitely tacos should be lower than your profit margin. If it's not, most likely you're losing money, and you may ask yourself, okay, how do I even calculate these tacos? Some people don't even know. Tacos is not what you eat in Mexico, guys. Tacos is actually a metric, right? I know it's confusing sometimes because it's difficult, because you can't really see on the Amazon dashboard, right? It's something you need to come up by yourself. So how you calculate the tacos? The way you calculate the tacos, you take all of the spend you have done in PPC, right? You divide that by the total amount of sales. Let's say you did last 30 days. Last 30 days is spent on PPC, right? And you divide that by the last 30 days total sales. That's going to give you a percentage. That's tacos. That's why you want to aim for, to have it as low as possible. Best way to track it, keep it under your profit margin for sure. And also try to use a software solution that can track these KPIs, guys. Sometimes doing manually, you can most likely make mistakes, because sometimes those reports don't include returns and things like that. So use a software solution. But in summary, that's what tacos is, and that's how you calculate them. Okay. Awesome. Let's see which one is the next question. What is the average Amazon conversion rate? Amazon conversion rate, I would say usually you're aiming between 10-15%. That's where you're aiming for. If you have something lower than that, most likely you have a conversion issue. First thing you need to work around are images, listing for sure, offering, and most importantly, price. I mean, I know we always hear images and listing, but price sometimes is just the quickest fix, right? Because sometimes images can be expensive for you to remake the images, and you don't have the time to even react for seasons like this to have images done. So play with price, guys. I mean, price easily. I mean, if you analyze your competition and you definitely have the margin to play with that, you're gonna see a big effect in sales. Sometimes dropping a couple of dollars, we have seen across our accounts, is a massive increase in sales. So you need to understand that, make a market analysis, and even consider this before launching a product. If you don't have margins to play with pricing, you're gonna struggle. So make sure you consider that as well. Okay. How can I restart the honeymoon period? So honeymoon period usually starts as soon as you create the listing. There are tricks around this to postpone it. Most of them is putting the offer down in the future, like a couple of weeks down in the future. Restarting it, I mean, there are some tricks you could do. Like some example, some tricks is like deleting all the fields in your listing, like title, everything, leave it empty, delete the listing, upload the listing. That kind of give a refresh. However, that's not really a clean honeymoon period. We have seen that it doesn't really sometimes give the biggest refresh push. I would say the biggest and easiest way to get honeymoon period refresh is just create a new, what we call ASIN, right? Create a new ASIN if you lost the honeymoon period, and send the new inventory under that. If you can do that, that's usually the cleanest way, because if you try to play around with your old listing and it's been active for a very long time and you have bad data in terms of bad conversions, no sales, and you try to revive it, it's going to be more costly than just start a new listing altogether. And make sure you do correctly this time when it comes to taking advantage of the honeymoon period. Okay. Maybe best PPC strategy for my first month of sales. So best PPC strategy, and actually did a workshop like this in Mexico. I would say when getting started, guys, you want to focus as much as possible on the most relevant keywords. You want to avoid anything that is like broad campaigns, automatic campaigns, phrase. You want to keep it exact, because the first week you want to go very strong on showing to Amazon these are the keywords I want to aim for, right? You want to do this by, of course, making sure you do a very good research and validating what is your competition doing, understanding which are the most relevant keywords, understanding which are the keywords you're competitive enough, because if you try to compete on keywords that you have huge competitors in there, you're gonna struggle, right? So that's very important. Once you basically manage to validate that, right? That you validate, okay, I can compete on these keywords and these are definitely keywords that I can compete on. Then what you want to do as well is you want to create exact match campaigns, at least for the first 2 weeks. After the 2 weeks, you want to start then exploring phrase burn and automatic, because already the system has some relevance attached to your ASIN, and that's where you want to start more exploratory experimental campaigns. By first week or so, you want to get as much traffic as possible through your most relevant keywords and make sure you have the biggest conversion chance possible. How you achieve that? Crazy high coupons, 30%, 40% if you can do that, and that usually is gonna allow you to bypass that basically rejection that you get most of the time for new listing, which is no reviews, no social proof, but you get a 40% coupon. And most of the time people know that if you have a very good presentation of the listing, the images, and they can see the quality, they can understand that you're getting started, so they might for sure trust you if you have those big coupons. That's usually the way around that. Okay. Awesome. What to do if the search volume from product is decreasing? If the search volume of your product is decreasing, okay, so usually what you want to do on these scenarios is that most likely there are two scenarios here. Either your product is seasonal, so the seasonality of your product is going down now. Let's say it was a Halloween related product, so now Halloween is coming, it's over. So if you're selling costumes or something like that, you're gonna struggle for sure to sell those. And the other one is the demand is dropping. If you're saying something that was trendy, because typical TikTok, something along those lines that was trending just because a specific influencer or something that put it on the roadmap of people, but now is the interest is dropping. Sometimes you can see those things. Also, it can be to a specific new iterations of the product, like new versions of a solution for the product came up and now the keyword might change slightly. Those things you need to consider, and this is very important that you actually consider as well when doing product launch. When you're doing product launch and product research specifically, you want to make sure that the search volume of your product is always consistent and you see big drops. If you see big drop, that's most likely a seasonal product, and it's fine as long as you understand the risk with that, but you want to understand as well how you put that into a correlation, how you need to order your inventory to avoid overstocking or going out of stock or things like that, right? Awesome. So let's see. Next question. How do I find the flat file of my products? So the flat file of your products, usually the way you find this is, there are different ways you can do this. The easier way, so you can download the flat file with all the information, is download the catalog listing report. You go to Amazon customer support, you request the catalog listing report because no enabled from as a default. Then you go to reports, you go inventory reports, category listing report. You download that. It's going to download all your listings and your inventory with all the information that has in the back end. You're going to see the empty fields of those listings. You can basically fill those fields with the information that is missing. You just upload it with a partial update, very important, so you don't delete something that is you don't basically fill on that flat file that you upload. And that's the easiest way to play with flat file, because if you download just a template, then you need to fill everything yourself, like the SKU, ASIN, and all of that, and you could do a mistake. Those things easy to make a mistake because they have numbers, letters involved, and all of that, right? Awesome. What to do if I run out of stock in Q4? Okay, so in Q4, usually what you want to do to avoid going out of stock is you need to plan ahead. I mean, that's the easiest answer to that, right? You need to understand if you were selling already for over a year in the Amazon space, like yes, let's say you started in 2020, you understood what happened in 2020, 2021. You need to plan ahead. The other thing you can do to forecast sales, there are software solutions out there. For example, EVA is a very software solution for that. It allows you to estimate sales. DataHawk as well allow you to do that, and you can put the estimated your information by connecting your Amazon account, and it can allow you to estimate how many sales you're gonna make and how much inventory you should have in hand. And then based on that, you decide how much inventory you need to have, because that's another thing. You just don't need to think about Q4. You need to think usually up to February, because remember, up to February, most likely you're not gonna have a new inventory unless you order now and they're gonna ship in January before February New Year. But yes, you want to plan ahead at least up to February, so you don't are stuck into the situation that you're out of stock Chinese New Year, and by the time they start producing, you're out of stock for a long time, right? Next question: how often do you recommend optimize PPC campaigns? So PPC campaigns, usually I recommend optimizing them on a weekly basis. For most people, that's more than enough, because most people are not gonna have huge budget that you're gonna have hundreds of clicks per day to be able to basically optimize your campaigns. However, if you're using huge budget, like some clients I do, like 1,000 per day plus, then yes, I would say every 3 days, so you avoid small mistakes to carry on for another 4 days that then can become costly in the long term. Make sure you have data when you optimize. Don't optimize just based on your intuition, based on what your neighbor tell you, your brother, your friend, whatever. Based on data, guys. If you see a keyword that just made 4 clicks and no sales, that doesn't mean it's not a good keyword. Most likely didn't have enough opportunity to perform. The same opposite, if a keyword is very relevant to you and just had just close to 10 clicks, I know 10 clicks may look a lot, but usually leave it at least to 20 click, guys, because sometimes it can depend also on the time of the day that click was made, on the season that one made, and you want to have enough consistency across the board to make a decision. Specifically, those keywords are important for your product. Okay. Awesome. How to measure keyword cannibalization? A keyword cannibalization, for those that might not know, is basically the term we use in the Amazon PPC space, when we basically understand that by doing advertising on some keywords, specifically keywords that we dominate already, like we are on page one already, top of the search organically, just below top of the search sponsor, we might think that if we start doing top of the search on those keyword sponsor, then we basically what can end up happening is we basically eat our own sales, right? It can happen. I mean, because basically, remember, most people don't know the difference between organic and advertising campaigns. So what could end up happening is that basically, let's say you are selling water bottles, you already top one water bottle organically, you then advertise also water bottle, you know, top a sponsor. Most people on their phone or website browser, they're gonna see the sponsor always first, because it's always first, and most of them are gonna click on the sponsor, right? So that means those people were already going to buy you anyway, but just because they don't know the difference between one another and the sponsor is always first, you're basically paying for a visit that was guaranteed. So in those keywords, maybe you want to test instead keep advertising top of the search, maybe you want to try something different, like video campaigns that are more at the mid of the page. So you already control top placement organic, but you control mid of the page with video. Then you can also do the rest of the page or product detail pages with sponsor a product campaigns to make sure you target towards the middle end of page one or page two, those placements that maybe you don't control already organically. And then you make sure you create an ecosystem where you control as much data as possible, a placement as possible, so you can you avoid basically trying to compete in the same placement that you already control in the first place. So that's the definition of keyword cannibalization. Okay. Awesome. Good question, by the way. I've been getting that question a lot lately. Next question. What do you think of day parting? So day parting, basically day parting has to do when basically, and we have seen this a lot lately with Amazon Stream, which is basically you can customize the way basically your bids are managed on an hourly basis based on data, right, that the system gets. Basically, you can understand if during the morning you have a better performance, you increase bits. During the afternoon, maybe you're not performing that well, you lower the bits. The same opposite thing you can do based on data. So basically, Amazon Stream give you more a 24/7 control on your campaigns at the hourly basis level, which is very granular, right? The amazing thing of this is that you have now amount of data you didn't have before. You can make very strategic decisions specifically around understanding trends of your products, also during specific events, and you can be as efficient as possible among your keywords and among the budget you use for your campaigns. Now, this can be also tricky if you do not use a software solution. You try to make it on your own by just assuming things and assuming behaviors you can see. Because sometimes I get that question, oh, I'm seeing a lot of sales always in the morning, but you don't have real data. It's just you feel like that because maybe that's what you feel, or maybe it can be confused by the perception that you will log every morning on your Seller Central account, and that's when you see the actual sales. And you may think, actually, this behavior is always happening, but it's not actually always happening, right? So very important that you understand that. I would say if you want to use a software solution, for example, you have people at Perpetua, amazing people when it comes to PPC software solution, and give it a try. They also offer Amazon Stream, and they will able to allow you to analyze this data on the hourly basis to make the best decision for your Amazon PPC and overall on your strategy. Okay, awesome, guys. So I think, yeah, I think we cover over 10 questions, which is good session. We covered news, we covered everything that's going on. I saw in Mexico. I also want to point out, I had an episode yesterday with Paul Harvey around TikTok. Amazing episode, check it out. He's actually dropping a promotion on Black Friday for everybody that's interested around getting TikTok involved into the Amazon business strategy. We all know external traffic is more important than ever, and with PPC through the roof, I mean, you need to implement strategies like that to make sure you stand out of the competition. So check her out. And we talk about how to find influencers, how to implement this, why it's important to Amazon business, and all of that. So definitely an amazing thing that I would say don't take for granted. I know a lot of people think, oh, TikTok is just for dancing, but trust me, we have seen amazing results from case studies that is paying off if you know how to implement. Awesome, guys. So thank you very much for everybody that is keeping in touch with us and keep sending your questions, keep engaging with our content, sharing the content, liking the content, you name it. Whatever you want to do with the content is yours. It's for you to do whatever you want. This is your home. This space is meant to provide as much value as possible. I know how difficult it is sometimes to start business. Been there. I know how it feels to know nothing. So this is the my giving back to support you guys and make sure you're on the right track to get in the Amazon business where it should be. Okay. Remember, we also dropping blogs every week. So that's also a new thing we're dropping to keep providing value in a written form for those that maybe don't like video or don't have time for that. We're going to be releasing, by the way, a new series. We already have a newsletter, but we're going to be releasing a new one in LinkedIn Sure, where we're going to be also sharing more high level strategies and things like that. I'm going to be announcing that soon, so you can subscribe and you can also receive that extra value from our team. So thank you. Have an amazing rest of the week, guys. Keep crushing it. I hope this Black Friday goes amazing for you on Cyber Monday, and the same for the rest of Q4. Remember, anything that you need, we are here for you. Take care, and remember, mindset is everything. Take care. Bye-bye.